everybody. You are listening to the session that is about 50. Joking. You're listening to a session called Winning Hearts and Minds, How to Master Mind Market Share in a Virtual World. So whenever our playbooks don't work, maybe we're marketing a new product, we're selling in a new geography, we're testing a new business model, or maybe we're navigating a global pandemic, we really get a chance to rebuild our playbooks. And whether your company has experienced headwinds or tailwinds over the past 6 months, everyone's gotten a chance to try to do that during COVID. And so I'm really excited to have some panelists with me here today who can share some of their learnings so that we all get some inspiration for how we can build our strategies to increase in virtual reality. So I've had the benefit of a little sneak preview. And so as a teaser, we're going to hear about how we scale webinars. We're going to hear about how you can use surveys as mid-funnel content, and how to reposition your product given that your value proposition has changed, and a lot more. Just a brief background to myself before I hand it over to our panelists. Although I'm guessing I'm the least interesting of us, that's why they had me moderate. My name is Ingrid Bonde Akerlind. I started my startup career in growth marketing, pricing, and product marketing leadership roles. Most recently, I was the VP of Marketing and Growth at a Stockholm-based startup. I joined them at seed stage, left them post-Series A to join Ox VC. Ox is a B2B SaaS investor. We're a B2B SaaS-focused fund based in London and Stockholm that backs European startups. And specifically, the stage we invest at is when companies are achieving emerging business model market fit, which is what we see as when commercial teams are starting to scale and the go-to-market model is gaining predictability. But that's enough about me. We're here to listen to everybody else. So let's hear from our panelists. Sandra, how about we start with you? Short word about yourself and Panintelligence.
Thank you, Ingrid, and apologies if there's a bit of noise in the background when I speak, so please do bear with me. A little bit of building work outside. So my name is Sandra Moore. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Panintelligence. We're an embedded data analytics solution that SaaS vendors use to improve the functionality for data analysis, reporting, data visualization, machine learning as a white label embedded solution inside their stack. So yeah, really delighted to be here today. Happy to share some stories about crossing the chasm and how we're working with marketing to do so.
Andy, how about you're next on my screen?
Sure.
Leadfeeder and Andy.
Sure,
okay.
Sure, no worries. My name is Andy Culligan. I'm the CMO here at Leadfeeder. Leadfeeder, what we do is we recognize the companies which are visiting your website, where they've come from, how long they stayed on the site, how many unique users from that specific company have come, what their location is, what they've interacted with, and so on. So we're basically recognizing the intent of the companies that are visiting your site. So for example, if somebody's visiting your pricing page, they're probably showing a higher level of intent than somebody who's just browsing some blog posts. We're then able to share that with your sales and marketing teams. From a marketing perspective, be able to working, the sales team reach out in time in order to open up some pipeline with that company. So that's me and yeah, Leadfeeder.
Wonderful. And then last but not least, Alexandra.
Hi, everyone. So I'm VP Marketing at Checkout. Checkout is an all-in-one monetization platform. We basically help online merchants to sell online internationally, from the very first, like from accepting payments to actually retain, to basically also, sorry, I'm a little bit nervous, to expanding internationally, to manage compliance, tax management, so the entire spectrum, and last but not least, increasing their customer lifetime value. We have over 20,000 clients globally. I'm in charge, as I said, with marketing, and basically I have a strong B2B marketing background. I've been doing payments and marketing for my entire career. So yeah, and I'll be sharing some of my, our experience and my experience with you guys today.
Oh, wonderful. And we'll get to hear more as we dive into those operational learnings. So I guess I wanted to start out sort of at the beginning of this period. So think back to this beginning of mid-March, April. event organizer after event organizer, they're calling you and they're saying, the event's canceled. And so any plans you had to gather leads via field marketing is totally up in smoke. Or perhaps you're lucky and you're already relying on digital marketing, but suddenly those channels aren't really working the same way as they used to. Could you maybe tell the audience, what was the situation like at your company? And what did you do? Did you test new channels, or did you adapt some techniques that you were already using? Andy, how about we start with you?
No worries. So actually, when it comes to the events being cancelled, actually, I think one of the first ones that we found out about was SaaS Talk. So we were supposed to be going to SaaS Talk in June in the US, and it was actually Alex, who's the founder of SaaS Talk, reached out to us because we know Alex well, and he said, hey, look, guys, it's not going to happen. And I actually think it was SaaS Talk were probably one of the first to go ahead and do it, which is pretty brave, but I mentioned here that they've managed to really spring back there and really pivot really well by offering what they're offering now. But and I see Alex is just after joining in as well. So, so yeah. So from our side, like it was interesting. Okay, so it got to mid-March, and so I joined Leadfeeder in December of last year. My focus has always been to align the sales and marketing effort, and I do that by like making sure that marketing metrics are joined together with the sales metrics. So my target is revenue. So if we're not hitting our revenue targets, I'm doing something wrong, okay? And of course, like it goes up from there in the funnel. Of course, there's other metrics within there which I'm measuring myself. But at the end of the day, if we're not making the revenue, then it's my problem, okay? And I came into the organization saying, hey, I want that to be my problem, okay? And I want to work with Jaco, who's our chief revenue officer, to get there, okay? Now, prior to that, we were very much focused on top of funnel metrics that wasn't properly connected into the sales org. So what does that mean? Like we were focused on leads rather than deals, okay? So like I was in the process of already sort of doing this, like connecting the revenue back into everything. And what we were doing to do that was looking at all of our paid channels. So events being a paid channel as well, but let's take our digital stuff, where we drove most of our business will be done through digital, and we've got a big inbound model. We were spending a lot of money on paid, like a huge amount of money on Google, and we weren't tying a red string all the way down to revenue. So like the first thing was like in January, we were like, okay, we need to probably get more efficient in our spend. Let's start looking at what we're spending and what's actually turning into cash from a customer perspective. So we'd already started that, and the plan was to like boost more or sort of spend more time and resource on building the organic piece and then pulling budget away from the paid piece. That was sort of, and then it came to March and it was like, okay, well, like we don't know what's going to happen next week, never mind 6 months from now. So like, let's like cut back on paid budget as much as we can. So we went down to like a third of where we were at in January, in March. And then we were like, okay, well, we have to do something now because we still need to grow the business, okay? So like the easiest place to make cuts is in marketing. So I just started thinking like, okay, well, where can I start like adding some value? Like I've got extensive experience in sales myself and then also in marketing, and having started my career in sales, like I understand the sales problem and so on, which is quite unique to me as a marketer. Not many marketers have that like sales background. So I thought, okay, let's start some content because that's what I can offer. People can pick my brain. Right. So with that, I got in touch with the founder of a company called ReachDesk, who do direct mail, a guy called Alex Ollie. And I reached out to Alex and said, hey, how are things going over at ReachDesk? And he was trying to get out of New York at the time. I think this was like the 15th, 16th of March. And he said, oh, you know, like we need to see how things pan out, but how about we do a webinar together? And I said, okay, well, let's try it because I want to try some new forms of content. We've done a webinar before in the past; it worked well, and we spoke.
Try
a webinar. Started on the Monday. Started talking.
Just to
try it. Try to put it out on the Tuesday. By the Thursday, we'd had like nearly 700 registrations. So in 2 days, 700 registrations, and a show rate. We had about 560 people on. So I thought, okay, like the big show, right? So like 60 to 70% shown, right? So we said, okay, well, there's something to this. Let's you know, straight after that one, got my head of demand gen on the phone saying, we need another one next week. And I was thinking, he was like, well, who? And I was like, well, let me worry about that. So I started looking into my network. Aaron Ross is the author of Predictable Revenue. So this book here, Predictable Revenue. And also this book.
I have mine too.
From Impossible to Very good, very good. So
you literally just picked on your list of SaaS books and you called up one person after the other.
So I actually knew I knew Aaron from a previous life. So we'd met at another event a couple of years back, and I just reached out to him and say, hey, do you want to do some content together? He had reached out to me prior to that saying, hey, I love the content that Leadfeeder are doing. How about we do something? I said, now's the right time, Aaron. How about we do a webinar next week? Again, same story. Pushed it out on the Tuesday. 2 days later, we had 1,916 registrations after a 2-day push. And what happened then was over 1,000 people tried to log in at once and the system crashed. But
I've heard that story. Have you guys heard that too, or experienced that? That's sort of like you can't join a webinar in the past 6 months because there's so many people that log into them, and our technology is not up to snuff yet.
Well, that's the thing, you know. And it's each technology has like slightly different feature sets. Some are better than others in certain features and whatnot. But stability to me is the most important after that. But and then we just started rolling with it. We started getting an audience, and we had people like talking about it on social. And it meant that like I'd have to be almost like a salesperson reaching out to people saying, hey, come on to our webinar next week. But it's over the past 7 months, we've managed to bring in close to 13,000 new leads just from doing that. So we haven't spent anything on it. In terms of closed revenue, we've managed to close an additional month's worth of revenue based off of just doing those webinars. So
if there's any learning from that, it's sort of that the testing new strategies has been really important to test new things. Sandra, what sort of new things have you been testing that have really been surprisingly very effective?
So on our side, I have to recognize that we were actually doing more digital marketing activities, more than just events. So the fact that the events were closed, it was not great for us because it was an opportunity to meet clients, meet prospects face to face. So that human, personal interaction is missing still. But we did the majority of our activities in the marketing department were in the digital space, basically everything from events and content, and actually content similar to Andy is a significant part of our demand generation engine. And we were doing it in the past, but this year, after the pandemic started, it's just thriving. We had our own event, and we had it for the last 4 years, but this year it was, for example, in 2019, we had 1,000 registrants. Right now we had 3,000 registrants, which is huge. It was such a wonderful event. We do webinars with influencers all the time, and Andy was, and Aaron, was one of our speakers as well. So we know Aaron, we love him. It seems like a common person to everyone. He's wonderful. We had it was a wonderful webinar. So yes, the webinars, the online events are thriving, and like we're super happy because they're contributing more, not only on the top of the funnel, but also to the end of the funnel, meaning opportunities, closed ones. So we're seeing an increase and contribution of content to that part. And I agree with Andy. We are also measured. We have shared objectives with sales. We're measured on the same thing. So if they're not selling, we have an issue as well. So I totally agree. And I think I've experimented, and I think it worked a ton, especially for our audience, is doing more surveys and then doing benchmarks and trends and sharing the knowledge with the prospects, but also the client side. It helped them understand the period better, help them understand what others are going through, help them understand what they should focus on where should they invest, what's working, what's not working. I think it also helped with the awareness, not only with the top of the funnel, mid of the funnel, late stage of the funnel. Basically, it really helped through the entire funnel, helping them. We created a commerce. We called it COVID-19 Commerce Survival Kit. That was really excellent.
So what are the top tips to survive COVID then? We're having a little hard time understanding you, Alexandra. So we're going to park surveys and we're going to park survival kits and maybe like, no, unfortunately. No. So we're going to park survival kits and we're going to park surveys, which is unfortunate because I really wanted to hear what was in these surveys. But maybe, Sandra, you guys had a slightly different experience because I think you also you sell to different sorts of clients and you're using different channels to begin with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a B2B market position. And prior to COVID, we were relying quite a lot on SDR and digital outreach, but much more targeted. So we have a very clear ICP profile, so much smaller cohort of potential customers, high growth SaaS vendors for us. And therefore we were using quite direct outreach channels such as telephoning people, which during COVID suddenly became very difficult. People weren't at their desks, their offices, phones were not necessarily being answered by people that could navigate you to individuals. And we actually had a team that demanded a lot more support because they were used to just being able to get through to people. So what we've had to do is either enable the function of the team to have more digital skills using different tools actually. So we use more of the LinkedIn tools and technologies in around the LinkedIn ecosystem to help us to reach our target ICP essentially. We'd had a very clearly defined like I say, SAM, that has helped us to really clarify that proposition and validate that during the period. But it's been reshaping our SDR function to be more of a digital outreach function as opposed to just a telephone outreach function. That's actually been the change that we've most needed to do to enable them really with more tools, more skills, and bring more people into that team. It's been interesting where those people have come from as well. So the recruitment market's really struggled, but if you think about the recruiters and the tools they use and their skills, actually they can move from the recruitment industry, because there's a lot of people looking for new roles, into the SaaS or tech sector, into an SDR role, and they're often very keen to do so. So there's actually a brilliant talent pool out there if you look into the recruitment market space for people that have got those skills. So that's been a big sort of change for us and a key learning. I think another thing that really was a brilliant moment for us was the no-code, low-code movement, which is something that, to be quite frank, we've always been. We just didn't know that was a badge that we could put on our products, candidly. So we started to hear all this kind of momentum from our customers who were saying, hey, we want to reuse your technology for or pivot it for a new solution to a problem in this market. So a footfall SaaS vendor pivoting to a social distance monitoring solution, a patient record solution pivoting to a testing and tracing system inside hospitals for patients, and construction software. So there's lots of things from that.
Back to that, I think that's interesting, but I just wanted to, in between, Andy, I know you worked a lot with SDRs too. Did that resonate, what Sandra was saying there about needing to use new tools?
So like I just put into the chat there that recruiters actually make the best SDRs. So I've run SDRs before, and I don't know what it is about recruiters, but they have this grittiness to them that they're just closers, they're really, really good closers. And at my previous organization, my head of SDRs was actually our head of recruitment, and he wanted to change, so I brought him onto the SDR team, and he smashed it. And then we had a couple of other recruiters that then came onto the SDR team as well. So yeah, like from the SDR perspective, like I fully understand what Sandra's saying. It's a challenging org because they're typically very young, quite junior, and quite green. And typically in the SDR world, there's very few SDRs that actually want to be SDRs. So most of them want to be in sales, and they don't have a huge amount of experience. And it's a tough group to manage. But if you get the right leader within that org, it's great. But just on Sandra's point there around recruiters and SDRs, like, yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. But I had that, like, it's so funny because I've never heard anybody else say it, and it's just resonated with me. I was like, yes, I've had 3 recruiters make amazing SDRs, and it happened like a year ago. And now it's actually, I'm putting the pieces together.
This is like top learning, guys, for your new playbooks is make sure that all these recruiters, you have a great talent pool, get them into your organizations in order to start closing more in the digitally first SDR
Hire recruiters. Hire them all.
Hire recruiters, exactly. Yeah, no, I just thought that you might have an interesting perspective on that, Andy, too. But yeah, Sandra, so coming back to sort of the low code thing, I take it this is more is it your customer needs that were shifting and you responded, or is it rather that you saw a more effective way to communicate to your customers?
Yeah, I'd like to think we'd come up with the idea, but to be quite frank, customers often surface the best ideas and you just piggyback on it and repeat it. So no, our customers were saying, hey, we'd like to apply your technology to different contexts. And the reason they could do that is because they could do it quickly, because we are a low code, no code tool. And like I said, we've never really called ourselves that. We do now. But they were calling. They built solutions in days during this period for addressing all sorts of new problems as a result of the pandemic. And we say, hey, this is probably one of our crown jewels, we just didn't realise it. So we were selling all sorts of more functional benefits and value drivers, but actually this was about speed, and it was about speed of innovation and speed of time to a solution that actually was now starting to resonate in this new world economy. And so we moved our proposition, and we actually set up a whole community, No Code Lab it's called, and we're now collecting the no code community around us, because we actually see that as a really great way for us to build an ecosystem that actually lends itself to one of our core pillars, and also gives us a voice to market around something that we stand for and are, but also helps us to kind of create a campaign channel. So yeah, so we've built a network and community, but that all happened within the space of the last couple of months. So yeah, listening to your customers and hearing what they tell you is your value, and making sure you pivot on that as quickly as you can is really important.
So there's something there in like content and the messaging we're using, what parts of our products we're highlighting. Andy and Alexandra, what does that make you think of that you've also experienced in the past 6 months?
So yeah, it's basically, as I said, we clearly wanted to understand better what our customers are going through, what their pains are, whether they're growing, decreasing, what's working for them. So clearly that helped us develop a strategy to like give them what they need in order to succeed. We're lucky enough that we're basically being in the online world, helping them sell online internationally. We are in the great spot to be. Basically, both us and our customers kind of thrived in this period. Everything really went up, so we were lucky. But we had some clients that were not doing that great due to, I don't know, fulfillment issues and stuff like that. And we developed strategies to support them in that period. So yes, we tried to be as much as connected to them, understanding them, and trying to, we develop strategies towards that particular need that they're facing at this very moment. But that definitely changes super fast in this period. I don't know, what worked 3 months ago is not working anymore right now. And we're now trying to define the new normal, but who can tell what the new normal is? There's no normal today, that's for sure.
Yeah, I wanted to throw in a question about forecasting, and I think, I don't remember which prep call it was. We were like, nope, let's not talk about that because we don't know how we're going to do it yet. So
that's for sure. Yeah, forecasting is we're doing it based on some past data, but as we know, that doesn't work.
Andy, how about you?
Look,
how is
from my side, the most important things is that you're adding value to people. So like one of the things that I brought in with the team was like, if we're running any type of content, we're not having it very much Leadfeeder focused. Like people don't want that; they don't want to pitch. I really think that the old saying that the best pitch is no pitch at all has really worked very, very well over the past 6 or 7 months, you know, in that you don't lead with the, hey, Leadfeeder can solve all these problems for you right now, because people are like, just leave me. If you're going to offer me some content, at least make it something that I can grab on to make it tangible. So everything that we did, I've made sure that it's like key takeaways or tangible information, like key advice in which your sales team can go and use immediately without putting their hand in the pocket. So for example, here are some email templates for your SDR team to use during COVID. Here are the email templates we've written for you free of charge. There you go. You know, go get them, you know. Here are some technologies to help you with your video outbound, right? Use Vidyard, use Loom, use Drift. Here's links to the free versions of those. Go test them, go do it. No problem. You don't need sign off from anybody. You don't need a budget, right? And it just, every single time we were doing it, of course, Leadfeeder was there. Our logo was there. We were still explaining what we did, but it was very, very much in the background. So by us offering value and key takeaways, key actionable things, people were like, oh, wow, I've actually learned something like that. We were getting feedback week in, week out saying, thank you so much for the content that you're giving me, because I'm learning how to do my job better, and it's not a pitch. And when it comes around to me needing a solution that you have to offer, I'm obviously going to have you at front of mind because you've offered me so much value already. And that goes with existing business as well as prospects. So, you know, existing business, we're managing to lower our churn rates, which is, you know, for this particular climate is quite difficult, especially given the fact that we have a lot of companies that are on monthly contracts. So you expect, it's quite easy to get out of a contract, basically. We're a volume business, low cost, high volume, right? So, and if you're on a monthly contract, you can cancel a monthly contract at the end of the month and then you're gone, right? But by us adding extra value, also from the work that the CS team are doing and so on, but like all of that content piece has been very helpful in lowering that churn rate as well as attracting new prospects. So my key advice is just give people something that they can use for free. I couldn't put it as simple as that.
Alexandra, give some people something they can use for free. Reactions?
Yeah, I was just reflecting on a session that Jacko ran yesterday, and I don't know if you've been onto Jacko's channel, and I'm going to remember the name of it. Otherwise, and we'll drop it into the chat. So, Winning by Design. If you missed his session, please go and watch it again. He's got some fantastic videos which help you to see where you sit in that world. You know, to what extent does free stuff, if you're at the high volume, low value monthly subscription model end, or whether you're where we are, which is the SMB end of SaaS, which is lower volume, higher value. There's a different approach to market and different type of value that you need to create. So for us, community and gathering that community is more valuable to us as opposed, I mean, content's always king, I think, irrespective of where you are, but content's high value. So yeah, getting those webinars with other people talking about what you do well, I think irrespective, I think along the whole value curve where you are. But I think where you are on that depends on to what extent some of these approaches to marketing are going to be effective. And so just look at that, because I think he explains it a lot better than I can do. And I take a lot away from thinking about just exactly where we are and some of those activities. So community.
So community is something that you guys have found very important then, right?
Yeah, so it's about helping the community to gather and share and solutionize, because they're non-compete, but they're all trying to improve data insight and machine learning in our world. So there's a lot of education, learning and collaboration and bringing people together that actually helps that community to be confident, not just in technology, but also learning from how other people are doing things and seeing best case, best practice in action by speaking to other peers like them. So that works very well for us, definitely.
All right, we have just a few minutes left, and I want to open it up to the audience for questions. So just type in a question in the question box. And while we're waiting for some questions, Alexandra, I just wanted to get back to when you dropped off. What did you have in the digital survival kit?
Yeah, the digital survival kit was with content, because I'm with Andy there. For our audience as well, content works really well, and I don't consider content as being just top of the funnel activity, or no, it actually helps, as Andy said, with the entire funnel. And we, as I said, we have an omni-channel experience, so we do have other elements that contribute to the funnel. But content, actually, I think that content ties them all together. Like even the advertising, we're using content in advertising, so it's connecting the dots very well with content. And we use content in our nurturing streams to accelerate the funnel. We basically the content, it does have a significant portion, and the survival kit, to go back to your question, had a series of content pieces to help them survive this period, like from growth strategies to retention strategies to how to reduce churn strategies, basically a sum of all the elements you need to survive based on what problem you have at that particular moment in time.
Interesting. So there's definitely some themes here again about what's the content you can use now and make actionable.
Exactly, and don't think that
we can't hear you, but we saw your mouth.
Yeah, don't think that content as being just a webinar. It's a multitude of elements used as well as the top of the funnel, but also through the late stage, basically, as I said, nurturing streams, I don't know, data sheets, but whatever you can think of that can accelerate while also supporting the cloud, develop, understand the period.
All right, we have a question here for Sandra on what skills did you prioritize when upskilling SDRs to be more focused on digital outreach?
So actually, there's a lot of new tools that we've brought into the team that actually were new to the business. So I think we upskilled the business and the team, candidly. So broadening the range of, so we use something called Zopto in LinkedIn, and things like Apollo.io, which you may or may not heard of, built with G2 Stack. There's lots of different platforms out there that help SDRs to have a bit more information about the prospect before they reach out to them, to enrich and validate how well they fit our ICP profile, but also gives them a lead into that conversation and that outreach. So tooling with lots of sources of either information that they can enrich their thinking and understanding of the customer with without having to ask the direct questions. They go into that conversation with some clarity around, are they on AWS or not, for example. If we're targeting a SaaS vendor, let's know what cloud stack they're on before we actually reach out to them. To actually giving them different types of tools for softer outreach that feels more conversational and also has more thought put into it as far as attending to that individual and perhaps some of the content they've shared and responding and engaging with that. So a lot around different forms of digital outreach and different tools to be able to help with better understanding of the persona and the individual that you're trying to reach out to. Hopefully that answers the question.
I think so. I think that's a good answer to what we know, which is that it's new tools in order to adapt in different environments. So we are actually basically out of time. I just wanted to ask each of the three of you, is there one thought that you want to leave the audience with, a short and snappy takeaway? And just also, I am sure all of our panelists, if you have very specific questions, would be very happy if you reach out to them and ask them that directly. So don't hesitate to do that with any of us.
Should we put our LinkedIn contact details into the chat?
So why don't we
just do that now?
Feel free to add your contact details in the chat window there, and then the audience can reach out to us.
Let's do that now.
I just put my LinkedIn profile in there. Please feel free to add me, guys. Happy to answer any questions that people have. I see a couple in there from Matthew and Timia. But let's discuss that offline. But if you're looking for for one key thing, like that I've learned personally over the past 6 months, is to just go and execute. Right? I think a lot of people started like the crisis off being like, what do we do? And got a bit of panic and then just froze. And those people that froze didn't go anywhere. They froze. Nothing happened. And I didn't know which way to go. I didn't know which way was up, but I just decided, okay, well, I'm just going to start doing things and see if
better go up, forward.
Exactly. It's just do something, you know, start. And Alex mentioned this as well. And also Sandra, is that, you know, content is really important. And I just started pushing out as much content as possible. And a lot of marketers have been asking me about it, but I don't have time to do it. How can I write an ebook? There's no time. And I said, just, it doesn't need to be the best content on the planet. It just needs to offer some value.
Yeah.
My point is, we know that change is inevitable and rapid and accelerating and uncertain. So just keep listening. And, you know, I think asking the question of your prospects and customers, what is it they value in what you do all the time, not just at user groups, not just on PS scoring, and not just at those points in time that you do it, just all the time. Make it a question asking culture so that you're constantly making sure that's going back up to the top of the funnel for outreach and content design.
Well, thank you everybody for listening in. We've gone even just a little over here, but to see this final comment that I see here, onwards, outwards, and upwards. Thanks for listening, and please feel free to reach out.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, bye-bye.